I've done loads of little projects this week whilst working through the Odin Project JavaScript section. I've worked on things like drop-down menus, mobile navigation, image sliders, and more. Stick around and I'll go through them all later. Welcome to the series where I show you what I am doing to try and become a web developer. My name is Craig and this is week 28. Let's dive right in and see how much time I've spent on web development this week. Total time for the week is 16 hours and 25 minutes, which is down a lot and I'll get into why shortly. But to break that up, I've done 6 hours 45 for tutorials, 9 hours 15 for projects, and then just 25 minutes for career. The reason why it's down a lot this week is I did go mountain biking, which was great fun, but I'm very unfit. And also I just felt really, I don't know how to say this, I don't know, tired, a bit exhausted. I just felt like I needed to bring my foot off the pedal a little bit. So I took it easy, which is fine. Although it's been a short week, I felt like it's been a really good week. Gone over a lot of things that are new and things which I already knew. And as I said in the beginning, loads of practice. So I'm very happy this week. In terms of what I've been learning with the Odin project, I did finish the JavaScript in the real world section. This was great. It was a very practical section. It introduced linting, which is a way to standardize your code. So multiple developers will end up with the same style of code. I haven't actually used this yet, but I'm looking forward to when I work on a larger project. The dynamic user interface section was all about practicing what we've been learning so far. So this was the drop-down menus, mobile navigation, and image sliders. I really enjoyed this. I just like building stuff. My UI isn't brilliant on most of these, but the point was to work on your JavaScript, so I'm happy with that. I have 1 or 2 issues with the image slider and I'll be going over what they are when I'm on the computer. Next up, it went over the ES6 kind of history, why it's called ES6 or 2015, and it also introduced Babel as a way to make ES6 or newer versions work on older browsers. Again, I haven't used this too much, but I'm looking forward to implementing it. And then finally, I started the API section. Mostly I've just been over JSON. I feel a little bit more comfortable with JSON. I always got a bit confused when using it in the past, so I'm feeling better with it now. But I'm up to the asynchronous code bit, and yeah, I need a little bit more work on that, I'll be honest. Let's jump over the computer. So I'm going to go through the projects that I've been working on this week, probably rather briefly. As I say, there's not too much going on with them. The drop-down menus, really boring and bland, but it was quite interesting. Mobile navigations, I only did a few different types of mobile navigations. 2 of them are the same. Image slider, I don't know why, but I really enjoyed doing the image slider. I just thought it was fun, but as I said earlier, I've got 1 or 2 issues with it. As part of learning form validation with JavaScript, I needed to update the library project, and I also did another form to practice more validations. So let's dive right in with the drop-down menus. As I said, the UI is pretty naff. I've got these 2 divs, and on hover they drop down, and also on click. I do have an issue here with the on click, the little symbol, I want to say it's called a caret, I don't know. The symbol does not rotate on click, so ideally I'd want that drop down number 2 to be pointing down, and I'm not sure why it's doing that, so I need to look into that. I did take a little bit of time on this because I'm not 100% sure if I understood the instructions that well. It wanted to show the drop down on hover, and I didn't know if that needed to be with JavaScript or with CSS. In the end, I went with plain CSS to make the drop down show. It was fairly straightforward. I did try it with using JavaScript by using, was it mouse enter and mouse leave? But it was causing me a few issues whilst doing it with the on click. They were kind of battling each other, I guess. And it did ask to build an npm package. That's something I haven't done, but I would like to do. Next up is the mobile navigation. As I said, I've kind of got 2 versions. The sidebar and the tabs are pretty much the same. But first up, we've got the classic hamburger bar. Probably need to do a little bit of work to get the cross lined up nicely. It's not centered there, so that does annoy me. But I made the lines myself, animated it and all that. Generally quite happy. It was straightforward. It's something I've done before. The side nav, again, pretty straightforward. Just display flex. There's one thing I don't like about these two items that I need to work on is when I hover, it's got this effect where it makes this symbol larger and colors it just a little bit brighter. But that makes all the other images slightly move, and that is really bugging me. So I would like to improve on that. This one definitely has it on click where it updates. And I don't think I added it on this one. But that's the mobile navigation. Those other versions, I think it wanted you to try. Like the tabbed one, you could do it so it was collapsing. Probably need to do that just as more practice. And there's also a scroll one, which would be interesting. I'm not sure how I would make that work on desktop though. The image slider, as I said, I like this, but there's a few issues. First up, the images are too stretched. I wanted the image to fit the screen, but obviously that damaged the quality of the image. So I've got these arrow buttons, so you can go next. I also got the circles. These are created via JavaScript and linked to the image. And I do have it running on a timer, so every 5 seconds it moves on. This is where it causes some issues because if I click on the arrows, like again, you see it kind of like goes a bit weird because of the timer. So the timer doesn't reset on click of the arrows or the circles, and it can show 2 images at once. So overall, really happy with this. The library project was just to update this kind of form validation. As I said, I already had some validation on here, but that caused me a few issues as well. I was using, I believe the function was check validity, and for some reason check validity was still returning false even though things were passing. So how I got around that was I created a new variable called valid, set it to true to begin with, and then I went through my checks of each of these inputs. If the inputs were fine, it didn't change the valid variable. If one of them failed, it changed it to false and it would come up with an error. So I added an error section up here. So if I just click that now, it comes up with add number of pages, add the book title, and add the author. If I think -1, so yeah, it changes the error message. The number of pages need to be greater than 0. And then if I add a title or something like that, it will remove that. So generally I was quite happy with that. This is still a little bit annoying. It only has the message on one of them, which is why I added the error section at the top. And then finally this little form validation. I believe I built it for mobile first, so it goes down and it's a little bit responsive. And I have an event listener for key up on email, country, password, and confirm password. I do like these little blue highlights that I added to show that the field is active. And if I start typing, as I said, it will change to red because it's failing right now. I've said it needs to be at least 8 characters. So I'm just going to type that in now. And then this one checks to make sure the passwords match. Type, so the passwords need to match. I just type random characters so they will never match. And likewise, if I do this, it needs to be a valid email address. So that's fine. If I click submit, those two pop up because they haven't filled them in. I did build this using Webpack actually, so I've created all the forms from JavaScript, which is quite nice. Probably need a little bit more work on the validation side of things, but generally it was good practice, good use of JavaScript, good use of Webpack, and trying to write better code. That's everything for week 28. I've been applying for a few more jobs this week. Hopefully I hear back, but it is just a numbers game, isn't it? I did hear back about the data analyst position that I had an interview for, and unfortunately I did not get the role. They were a little bit concerned that I enjoyed programming a bit too much and felt I may get bored in the role, which is fair enough. Next week will just be more of the Odin Project, and I'm a bit in two minds about it, but I may do a course on kind of UI, just make my projects look a little bit nicer. I'm not sure on that yet. But yeah, hopefully I get up to the weather app project. So that will be the end of the asynchronous code section. I don't think I will complete the project this week. I want to take my time, want to make sure I implement good code practices, and as I said, I want to work on my UI and design skills a little bit, so I don't want to rush through it is what I'm trying to say. All the links to everything will be down below if you want to go check them out, and as always, I would greatly appreciate your thoughts and advice. If you have enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button down below, and if you'd like to see more, then please subscribe. Hope you all have a good day, and I'll catch you later.